couldn't believe she was gone. For so long, denial had been his shield.
For a long time, I just refused to accept that she was gone.
It wasn't just ink on paper. It was a final breath from the woman who once shook the monarchy simply by refusing to break. A letter, written by Diana, Princess of Wales, now rested in Prince William's steady hands, hidden for decades, folded in silence, preserved by time. On this rain-soaked morning, its words were no longer confined to secrecy. They were read aloud, not in whispers, not in sorrow, but in court. A voice that the palace tried to silence had finally returned, demanding to be heard. Outside Westminster Crown Court, rain tapped against umbrellas like the ticking of a clock. Crowds had gathered, supporters, skeptics, the curious, and the faithful. Many holding signs with Diana's name, some with only one word: justice. Police held the lines firm while journalists pressed in, desperate for more than just a quote. Inside, the storm was stronger. The gallery overflowed, eyes recording every detail. On the left, King Charles and Queen Camilla sat in tense silence. Camilla wore no flourishes, her fingers tightly laced in her lap. Her calm expression masked unease, betrayed only by the faint twitch of her jaw and the stillness in her gaze. Those who watched closely saw it. She knew what was coming. She always had. Prince William stepped forward, not as a royal, but as a son. His composure was polished, but beneath it was something older than grief, a quiet resolve born from years of silence. Taking the witness stand, he swore the oath and cleared his throat. His voice trembled, but his words stood firm. "My name is William Arthur Philip Louis. I am the son of Diana, Princess of Wales. What I share today is not about revenge. It is about remembrance and justice." The courtroom fell into stillness, one collective breath held. William's gaze swept over the judge, the jury, the gallery, and then, unflinching, landed on Camilla. "I remember her laugh," he continued softly, "how she made light of the darkest days, how she whispered truths when she thought I wasn't listening, truths I only understand now." The silence grew heavier. William raised a letter, Diana's unmistakable handwriting frozen in ink. In her final weeks, she was afraid. She said her phones were tapped. Her routes were altered without warning. She believed someone inside the institution was working against her. 1 week before her death, she wrote this down. He lifted the page. She wrote, "They are planning something. If anything happens to me, look back to the palace." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The jury shifted. Camilla blinked but did not move, her fingers pressing deeper into her lap. Charles leaned forward but offered no words. There were none to give. "This letter was dismissed as paranoia," William pressed on. "But she knew, and now so do we." His voice cracked, not with weakness, but with the weight of a son carrying too much for too long. "She told me the truth, and I will not let her be forgotten." Camilla sat silent, but something flickered behind her eyes, like a door closing too late. Her composure held, yet the silence around her grew deafening. The courtroom was still, but it was no longer calm. The truth had found its voice. The judge called a recess, but when the court reconvened under the same grey skies, the mood had shifted. Not chaos, but a sharp expectancy. William rose once more, his resolve sharpened. In his hands were 2 documents, both in Diana's handwriting. He approached the stand deliberately, unfolded the note, and read aloud. "My mother predicted threats within the palace. This wasn't fear. This wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. And still she was dismissed." His voice tightened. "But what if she was right?" Whispers surged like electricity. Jurors leaned forward. Gasps spread through the gallery. Camilla, once composed, shifted in her seat, her folded hands tensing. Charles remained motionless, his eyes fixed ahead. Then the doors opened. A tall, older man stepped inside. Trevor Rhys-Jones, Diana's last bodyguard. Unseen in public for years, now he was here. William's first witness. He took the stand with quiet confidence, his voice steady but scarred. August 30th, we were at the Ritz. Plans changed minutes before departure. Scotland Yard protection was dropped. Local security stepped in. Henry Paul, who was nearly 4 times over the limit, took the wheel. I voiced concerns. Dodie trusted him. We left from the back entrance into the tunnel. After that, everything was too fast. On the screen, a grainy photo flickered. The black Mercedes seconds before disaster. Trevor's voice wavered. I woke up in hospital. Broken bones. 4 minutes missing. But I remember her voice. Diana calling for Dodie. He paused, his gaze locking onto Camilla. The security plan had been changed. Protocol ignored. This wasn't oversight. It was engineered. The courtroom froze. Camilla folded her arms, looking away, but William wasn't finished. He stepped forward, holding up a black binder. I present declassified MI5 documents, recordings my mother made herself, evidence of what she feared. A clerk pressed play. Diana's voice filled the chamber, calm, unmistakable. If I die suddenly, this recording must be heard. It's not instinct, it's certainty. There are people inside I once trusted. They know what's at stake. Gasps echoed. The judge's gavel slammed for order, but the truth had already broken free. William returned to the microphone. These tapes confirm her fear. They also prove she was being watched. She knew it, and she documented everything. He read from another page in Diana's hand. I feel boxed in. Shadows are closing around me. If I'm not here one day, look to those closest. Look to the throne. The silence was absolute. Even time seemed to hold its breath. William's voice grew calm but unyielding as he turned toward Camilla. Madame, he said, his words deliberate, you were in that room the night before she died. You overheard the conversation. You heard the plotting, and you said nothing. Why? The question cut through the silence like a blade. All eyes locked on Camilla. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her chest rose sharply, then fell, as if each breath carried unbearable weight. I'm not here for vengeance, William continued, steady and resolute. I'm here for the truth, because that is all my mother ever wanted, and it's the only thing that can begin to heal what's been done. His voice softened, but the strength within it remained. For years we've lived in uncertainty. Now it is the palace's turn to answer. Camilla began to tremble. King Charles placed his hand over hers, but it could not calm the storm raging behind her eyes. The judge called a recess, but tension only thickened. When court resumed, William rose again, his face composed but heavy with grief. Someone in this room knows why my mother is gone, he said evenly. She was loved, she was celebrated, and we failed to protect her. But I know now, someone here held a grudge. He held up another letter, Diana's handwriting, addressed to Harry. Its words were warnings, fears of brakes failing, of a crash engineered, of a plot to clear her pathway for Charles. Each sentence landed like a stone, William's gaze fixed on Camilla. You knew, he said quietly. When the accusations came, did you defend her? Did you honour her memory? Or did you protect your place? The room turned on Camilla. Cameras zoomed closer. Her hands shook. Her lips quivered. And then the masks shattered. The Queen Consort of England, long admired for composure, broke before the world. Tears streamed freely as sobs tore through the silence. Reporters leaned in. Pens stilled. The judge's gavel pounded, but it could not drown the sound of Camilla's collapse. For the first time, the truth had pierced the palace walls, and it was unstoppable. Camilla sat, broken in the witness chair, her sobs echoing through the chamber. For years she had been the steady presence, the quiet survivor. But here, before the world, she was stripped bare. No crown, no titles, no carefully crafted image, just guilt and silence. The judge called for order, but the damage was done. Camilla's tears told a truth she could no longer contain. In that moment, the monarchy itself seemed to fracture. Within days, newspapers around the globe carried the same headline: Queen Consort resigns. Camilla stepped down from her role, citing health and personal reasons, though the world knew the real cause. King Charles, stoic and subdued, retreated from public view, his reign overshadowed by scandal. And then came the reunion no one expected. As the trial reached its climax, the doors of the courtroom opened once more. Prince Harry entered, not as an exile, but as a son returning home to stand beside his brother. Gasps rippled across the gallery. The two princes, fractured by years of distance, now stood shoulder to shoulder. William's eyes softened. For the first time in years, the brothers embraced, not as royals, but as sons who had lost their mother. The cameras flashed wildly, but this moment belonged only to them. Side by side, William and Harry turned toward the court, their mother's voice still echoing in their ears. Diana had united them once more, even in death. The world leaned in, breathless. The trial was no longer just about truth. It had become a reckoning, and the crown would never be the same. The courtroom stilled as William rose for the final time. His shoulders carried the weight of generations, yet his voice was clear, unbroken. "We cannot bring her back," he said, steady but raw, "but we can honour her. My mother was more than a princess. She was more than a headline. She was the voice for those who had none. And today, that voice has been heard again." He paused, looking first at Harry, then at the silent rows of jurors, reporters, and citizens. "This is not about vengeance. It is about truth, and the truth does not die. Not even in a tunnel in Paris, not even after decades of silence." The judge nodded solemnly, but the moment belonged to Diana. On the screens, her voice played once more, soft yet unshakable. "If I am gone, do not let it end in shadows. Tell my story. Let the world know I tried. And remember, I loved above all else my sons." Gasps and quiet sobs spread through the room. William closed his eyes. Harry bowed his head. For a heartbeat, the courtroom was no longer a place of trial, but a chapel of memory. When the tape ended, silence lingered like a prayer. No verdict could equal what had just been spoken. The world had heard Diana again, and though the crown trembled, her legacy stood taller than ever, unbroken, untouchable, eternal.